Mary Ellen Turpel-Lafond has herself testified in front of the Justice Committee this week. She's a former Saskatchewan judge and is a professor of law at the University of British Columbia and the director of the Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Centre there. You were watching today's testimony from Jody Wilson-Raybould at the committee hearings. Ms. Turpel-Lafond, thanks for speaking with me again. What's your reaction to what you heard?
Well, the entire day has been a remarkable day. First of all, with respect to the former Attorney General, that was a tour de force. I mean, it was detailed, it was precise, it was meticulous. Her demeanor was extremely calm and methodical. She outlined a story for Canadians which was devastating, really, to, I don't even know about being devastating to the Prime Minister, but devastating to our institution of the independent office of the Attorney General and to our Constitution and our rule of law.
How so? Tell me about that. How concerned should Canadians be about what they heard from Jody Wilson-Raybould today? Because to listen to the Prime Minister, as we just did in the last few minutes, his suggestion is that, look, we disagree on whether this was appropriate or not. I don't see it the same way she does. He's suggesting that the actions he took were part of his job as Prime Minister to protect jobs.
Well, what he's saying, we're at a political moment and a legal moment, and they both intersect because the integrity goes through both. If you don't follow the law, you lose all of your license to govern and you lose your integrity. Politically, you have your ethical issues. One of the things I took away from the Prime Minister's statement was that he actually didn't even pay attention fully to what she said, but he'd already decided to reject it, which is, of course, troubling. I think that it's very hard for him to reject it because it's not only about him, it's about all of his senior people, including people in the Prime Minister's office, Privy Council office, Minister of Finance. I mean, she itemized 11 people, and she in turn itemized issues that were extreme, such as, we need you to change your mind and we will line up supportive commentary. Or we insist that you hire a different lawyer, which is something I was very worried about. And in fact, I had set a bar thinking to myself, if the evidence comes out that they tried to press her to hire someone else, nothing is a clearer example of going around your Attorney General than doing that. And they brazenly did that, according to her.
Yeah, she said on a number of occasions that this suggestion that, look, it was interesting to listen. It was almost, we can, here's an Attorney General who said, I've made up my mind, back off. I have no intention of backing down. And then there's this process of, it's almost as if, let's see if we can find as many possible outs for her as we can to see which one she might take. Let's get an outside advisor.
Yeah.
Let's maybe, and that advisor wouldn't have to work through her. Maybe they could work through the Deputy Minister to then deal with the Director of Public Prosecutions. Jody Wilson-Raybould, the Prime Minister, said to her, you know, we need you to help out here to find a solution. What does that say to you?
Well, I think she put her finger on it, and I appreciate not everybody's a student of American politics, but she said, this is a Saturday night massacre. This is Nixon firing Archibald Cox. I mean, this was our chief law enforcement officer in Canada, our Attorney General, who got fired for following the law. She was removed as the chief prosecutor because she wouldn't do what they wanted her to do, which she felt was partisan and inappropriate. She pushed back. She stood up to them. I mean, credit to her from her evidence today. She patiently and meticulously responded, yet even still in this committee today, there were Liberal members of the committee blaming her somehow for having an ethical lapse when she actually stood up for the rule of law and was fired. So this is a case of this is a removal of a prosecutor. This isn't a cabinet shuffle. This is firing your prosecutor because your prosecutor won't go along with you and your team that feels a particular case should go another way. It's unprecedented in Canada. She named it for what it was very explicitly, and I think the Prime Minister coming out and saying, I have a different experience, let's move forward, we're doing good things together, I think he's going to have a lot of problems in the days to come.
Should there be any doubt, is there any doubt in your mind after listening to her testimony today? The government had been trying to sort of build and grow a narrative that, look, the shuffle had nothing to do with any conversations around SNC-Lavalin or her move from Attorney General into Veterans Affairs. And you used the term tonight, she was fired. I mean, is there any doubt in your mind after hearing what she said today that there's a direct link between not doing what was wanted from the PMO, the Ministry of Finance, and the Prime Minister himself, and a change in her portfolios?
I'm certainly not left with it. I mean, the balance of probabilities of what we heard today, it all lines up, not to mention the fact that she was an extraordinary Attorney General. You know, she was representing Canada well. She was doing extremely well. There was nothing to point to. And the fact that they had this rumor whisper campaign about her, they fired her, they gave 8 different explanations. And again, I give a shout out to the Globe and Mail. Obviously, Mr. Fife and his colleagues were trying to find out why did she get fired, and they stumbled across this, and it turned out to be a very significant issue. And I'm glad it's come out in public, but it shakes the foundation of our international reputation as a country based on the rule of law. And it's a very troubling day, what we've heard. Despite her calmness and her meticulous testimony, the content of that testimony is a body blow to the rule of law in Canada.
She said today when asked, if I heard her correctly, I think I did, whether she thought that these actions were criminal acts, and I think she said that she didn't believe they were. So if they're not criminal acts, Mr. Scheer is suggesting them, and I don't know that you necessarily wanted to get into the whole political discussion, but at the very least there are calls for, and you've talked about this before, for the RCMP to now investigate what we have before us. Is that view bolstered today, that somebody outside needs to take a closer look at this to see if perhaps there was any criminal activity here?
Well, first of all, let's not blame the victim and get the victim to tell us if the RCMP should come in, because she was pretty ground down by this. I mean, she held her ground, but she may have normed this kind of behavior. It was so out of the ordinary, and the veiled threats and so on. I mean, I think our standard in Canada is not whether you committed an offense under the criminal code, but the RCMP Integrity Unit should fully look into it, should make sure they have the materials. And we only know what she said was going on. What was going on elsewhere with respect to this enormous campaign that was underway to try and get a result for one particular company in one particular industry. So there are issues to be investigated. Whether it leads to criminal charges, she only testified today about what she did in her role as Attorney General. We haven't heard about what she did from when she was fired as our chief prosecutor to today, because she's gagged on that.
Right.
I think there's more there, and she should return and speak about this. I do think that there were elements, there were a bit of a circus atmosphere in that Justice Committee with needing to have stronger chair to be able to keep it on track. But I do think that what she said is very serious. But our standard should not be illegality. Like, if we don't break the criminal code, then we're all good. It's good tonight. Well, no, actually, you have to follow the rule of law. And they have a very serious problem to say that they've colored within the lines here.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your perspective on this again. A story that we're going to be covering for some time to come, I believe. Great to talk to you again. Take care. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.